travel ban blocked. President Trump challenges a federal judge.
And I'm Jason Calvi at the Capitol, where one member of Congress is throwing around the I word, impeachment.
A papal first.
Los grandes eventos deportivos como el Super Bowl de hoy.
A jumbo-sized greeting from Pope Francis at the Super Bowl. We tackle his message of peace and friendship. And long live the Queen. Queen Elizabeth celebrates 65 years on the throne, a look at her extraordinary reign. On EWTN News Nightly for Monday, February 6, 2017. Good evening from Washington, D.C., and thank you to those of you joining us from around the world for news from a Catholic perspective. I'm Lauren Ashburn. Donald Trump defends his order temporarily banning travel from 7 Muslim-majority countries. It happened on his first visit as Commander-in-Chief to U.S. Central Command and U.S. Special Operations Command, headquartered at MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, Florida.
We need strong programs so that people that love us and want to love our country and will end up loving our country are allowed in, not people that want to destroy us and destroy our country.
The president also said he will not allow radical Islamic terrorism to take root in our country. Trump was briefed by military leaders and joined enlisted personnel for lunch. Federal courts are battling over President Trump's travel ban. We have team coverage. Correspondent Jason Calvi will take up Capitol Hill for a reaction. First, Wyatt Goolsbee is at the White House, where the Trump administration is planning to get the travel ban reinstated. Wyatt.
Lauren, the Trump administration is planning on at least filing a brief of their own in response to filings from both Minnesota and Washington state. This is with regards to the ban. The White House has said for a long time that this is well within President Trump's authority, but attorney generals in both Minnesota and Washington disagree. They say if the ban is reinstated, it would unleash chaos again.
President Trump's executive order halted Friday by a federal judge in Washington state. Trump attacked James Robart in one tweet, calling him a so-called judge and his decision ridiculous. Just cannot believe a judge would put our country in such peril. If something happens, blame him and court system. People pouring in, bad. The executive order ramps up vetting for travelers from Iraq, Syria, Iran, Sudan, Libya, Somalia, and Yemen. The administration says those countries raise terrorism concerns. That was welcome news for many who were allowed back into the U.S. if they had a valid visa.
It feels amazing. It's unbelievable. I didn't see this coming anytime soon, so this is definitely beyond whatever I could imagine.
The Trump administration predicts the ruling will be overturned. Many protesting the executive order call it a Muslim ban. Trump advisors deny that.
It's about the threat to America. It's about people being mowed down in Nice. It's about people being killed in mass numbers in Paris, in Brussels, in Istanbul. We just don't want that to happen here on our shores, and that's why we did what we did.
President Trump once again defended his executive order while he was speaking to members of the military at U.S. Central Command. The Justice Department will represent the Trump administration with their briefs tonight. Lauren?
Wyatt, Washington State and Minnesota are not the only parties involved in the lawsuits. Tell us who else is involved.
Yes, Lauren, as it turns out, there are 97 companies that have also filed briefs on behalf of the two states, Minnesota and Washington as well. Those include a lot of tech companies, companies like Uber, Google, and Apple. They say that this particular ban harms them because it prevents them from being able to effectively recruit employees, especially employees out of the country. Lauren?
Thank you, Wyatt. The travel ban's rapid-fire court controversy isn't the end of the political storm, just the beginning. One Democrat is already using the I word, impeachment. Capitol Hill correspondent Jason Calvi has more of our team coverage.
Lauren, California Representative Maxine Waters says she's not yet calling for the impeachment of President Trump, but she says he's making the case by his actions, including the travel ban.
I made the statement that I was going to do everything I can to lead him right into impeachment. I didn't call for it yet, Evidence has been gathered.
California Democrat Maxine Waters says that evidence includes President Donald Trump's travel ban.
What's unusual and not normal is that you would have a president who would cause this much chaos in such a short period of time.
The chaos for House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi is too much.
This president who has acted in a way that is strategically incoherent, that is incompetent, and that is reckless. And that is not grounds for impeachment. When and if he breaks the law, that is when something like that would come up.
And lawmakers are debating the merits of the week-old travel ban. On Sunday, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell told CNN he's urging caution while the courts decide if the ban is constitutional.
We all want to try to keep terrorists out of the United States, but we can't shut down travel. We certainly don't want Muslim allies who fought with us in countries overseas to not be able to travel to the United States. We need to be careful about this.
Some Republicans, including Trump's close House ally, Representative Chris Collins, blame the media for getting the story wrong.
The press is all over him on the travel ban and everything to do with claiming it's a Muslim ban, which it's not, a religious ban, which it's not. And I would not have used that language, but President Trump is trying to do what he can to keep America safe.
The top Democrat on the Judiciary Committee, Senator Dianne Feinstein, predicts this travel ban will end up all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Lauren?
Jason, what are lawmakers saying about the president's tweets criticizing the judge who blocked the ban?
Yeah, in response to President Trump's words that the man was a so-called judge, Republican Senator Ben Sasse says we don't have so-called judges.
All right, Jason Calvi, correspondent on Capitol Hill. Thank you, Jason. Senators will be in session around the clock this week as Democrats aim to block President Trump's pick for Education Secretary.
I understand my Republican colleagues will go along with the president 90% of the time, but there are certain issues that are too important that demand putting country above party. Now is the time to put country above party.
Democrats are trying to drag out the process as much as possible under Senate rules. The vote could end in a tie, and that would mean Vice President Mike Pence would have to cast the tie-breaking vote. President Trump says the repeal and replacement of Obamacare may not happen until 2018, although some elements could be in place this year. It's a slower time frame than the president and other Republicans had first planned. This weekend, the president called the Affordable Care Act a disaster and said his plan would be, quote, wonderful. Russia is upset with Fox News host Bill O'Reilly for calling President Vladimir Putin of Russia a killer. When O'Reilly called Putin a killer, President Trump replied, "We've got a lot of killers. What do you think? Our country's so innocent?" A spokesman for the Russian president said the remarks were unacceptable and offensive. Putin now wants Fox News to apologize. President Trump's nominee for Secretary of the Army has withdrawn his name from consideration. Vincent Viola says it would be too difficult to divest himself from his businesses. The New York billionaire also owns the Florida Panthers hockey team. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis will recommend another candidate soon. Other stories our EWTN News Nightly team is covering in today's world. Anti-terrorist police in Turkey arrest nearly 750 suspects connected to ISIS. Raids took place in more than a third of the country's provinces, collecting ISIS documents and other materials. Turkey has suffered dozens of deadly attacks linked to the militants in the past year. And the number of children killed in Afghanistan reaches a new record. It's a 25% increase over last year. The United Nations says more than 900 children died in the ongoing conflict last year, and many were killed by landmines. Overall, civilian deaths in Afghanistan are at their highest level since 2009. Officials say an Afghan diplomat is shot and killed by his own security guard in Pakistan. Witnesses in Karachi saw people running at the Afghan consulate. The guard has been arrested, but his motive is unclear. Filipino troops are back in action after the government scraps peace talks with communist rebels. President Rodrigo Duterte lifted the 6-month-old peace deal on Friday after weeks of clashes and a disagreement over the release of political prisoners. The ceasefire ended after Marxist guerrillas killed 6 soldiers and kidnapped 2 others. The Egyptian president's challenge to the Muslim practice of a verbal divorce in that country is in jeopardy. The top Islamic authority in Egypt rejects the president's remarks, saying it's been in practice since the days of the 7th century prophet Muhammad. Muslim women in Egypt cannot verbally divorce their husbands, but can apply for a divorce in a court of law. A new report says 7% of priests in Australia were accused of sexually abusing children between 1950 and 2010. It's being called a massive failure.
Many children suffered and continue as adults to suffer from their experiences in some Catholic institutions.
Commissioners found more than 4,000 people reported abuse at more than 1,000 Catholic institutions across Australia. The Archbishop of Sydney says he's determined to help those who have been harmed by the church and, quote, work toward a culture of greater transparency, accountability, and safety for all children. Criticism of Pope Francis and some of his reforms took poster form this weekend. They appeared around Rome, asking the Holy Father, "Where is your mercy?" Dozens of posters featured a stern-looking Francis and referenced the, quote, decapitation of the Knights of Malta, a lay order, and other actions Francis has taken that has angered some church groups. Vatican correspondent Mary Shovlin joins us from Rome. Mary, what were the criticisms listed on these posters?
Lauren, the criticisms mentioned some of the reforms that Pope Francis has carried out during his just very short, almost 4-year pontificate. He says you've put commissions under surveillance, you removed priests, you've decapitated the Order of Malta, and it mentions another Franciscan order as well, and you've ignored cardinals. And it ends by saying, "Where is your mercy?" And this all happened on the day that the Vatican appointed a special delegate to deal with the Order of Malta, which some conservative groups are basically viewing as a takeover of the sovereign order by the Vatican. So coincidence or not, it doesn't happen that often here in Rome, and it was a little bit shocking, and we'll see how this plays out.
What was the reaction in Rome to the posters? But more importantly, who's behind this?
Well, even to the average everyday citizens here in Rome, they were trying to tear them down themselves. Only a few dozen of these were around the city. So you had your average person on the street trying to rip them down or cover them up. Then the Italian police came through and covered them up officially because they were illegally posted. So the Italian police are now, according to Italian media reports, launching an investigation from some camera footage that they have and from investigation into some conservative groups here in Rome. So far, the culprit has not been found.
Are you hearing any reaction from the Vatican? Is anyone saying anything about this?
No official reaction from the Vatican, and Pope Francis always takes these criticisms in stride. And we remember an interview he gave back in November of last year to the Italian Bishops magazine. He said, these things don't faze me at all. He said, I'm not losing any sleep over this.
That sounds like the Pope, right? Peaceful all the way. Mary Shovlin, EWTN News Nightly Vatican correspondent. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Lauren.
Coming up, the Vatican capitalizes on America's fascination with football.
Al participar del deporte, somos capaces de ir más allá.
And Pope Francis promotes the sacredness of life using a quote from Mother Teresa. It's being called the greatest comeback in sports history. The New England Patriots were down 25 points before rallying to beat the Atlanta Falcons in overtime during last night's Super Bowl.
And, we've gotten to this game before and not finished it off the way that we wanted. And, it took a kind of a miraculous effort to do it. And just so happy that we were able to get it accomplished.
Patriots quarterback Tom Brady receives his 4th MVP trophy after his 5th Super Bowl win. The last touchdown wrapped up a 34-28 victory with the first ever overtime in the game's 51-year history. In a papal first, Pope Francis sends a video message to tens of thousands of fans during Sunday's Super Bowl.
Al participar del deporte somos capaces de ir más allá del propio interés personal.
The Holy Father said he hoped the Super Bowl would provide a sign of peace, friendship, and solidarity for the world. Francis is an avid sports fan who often speaks of how sports can bring about social change. Joining us now is Joe Concha, media reporter for The Hill. Joe, what did you think of the Vatican's strategy of using the Super Bowl to spread Pope Francis's message?
Smart stuff from Greg Burke. He's a former Fox News producer and reporter at some point. So Greg basically said, you know what, everybody loves the Pope, and the Pope is saying, look, at a time where so many of us are divisive, whether it be in the U.S. or around the world, this is a sporting event to bring everybody together. And boy, it brought people together. Certainly, you're going to see numbers for last night. They'll probably say it's the highest rated Super Bowl ever. But to the Pope's point, that was shown inside the stadium. It wasn't shown by the broadcast network Fox. But now it's a big story. You see it almost on
everywhere.
Every news
You're
site.
right. Yeah, you're right. You know, the ads this year felt just a little more political. Let's listen to this. Airbnb decided at the last minute to air an ad focused on refugees. And it has "We believe no matter who you are" across it, with all different kinds of faces, where you're from, who you love, all of those things. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, the Coke commercial more stood out to me because Coke's a huge advertiser, and they did an America the Beautiful commercial.
Yeah.
And you say, oh, well, that's fitting for the times, but they recycled it from 2014. If I'm running Coke or I'm running any of the advertisers that kind of played that theme, you're saying, look, our brand appeals to all of you, whether you be black, white, Asian, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, whatever, right? So I think that's the plan, that
Right.
you could maximize your sales if you maximize the people that you're appealing to, and you play kind of very subtly the whole Trump theme in the background as far as him being
Do you
immigrant.
think
Just an
that,
act.
yeah, do you think that the ads trolled Trump?
Yeah. Oh, they totally did, without saying his name. 'Cause
Yes.
You don't want to alienate half the country, the 63 million people that voted for him. But that's a clear theme that I saw last night. And overall, I thought that the ads were very lackluster. They have been for years. I can't remember the last time there was a memorable Super Bowl commercial.
Right.
In these places. It seems like everybody's playing it safe.
Yeah. Well, my thought was that it mirrored the political campaign. Everyone thought that, Donald Trump was going to lose, but he pulled off a victory just like the Patriots did last night. What did you think of the whole show? The ads, Lady Gaga that come from behind victory. What's it say about our country at this moment?
It says that we are living in the most unpredictable times of all time. Lady Gaga jumped from the roof, right? There were 1,000 drones behind her.
Flying down in her silver pointed outfit.
Yeah, I mean, how do you top that if you're next year's act, right? I mean, that
Right.
was incredible. The Patriots, I mean, we've never seen a comeback like that before. Just like in November, no one gave Donald Trump a chance to win. ESPN was actually doing stats last night, forecast, saying at one point in the game, the Atlanta Falcons had a 99% chance of winning. Wall Street
Wow.
Journal had them at 91%.
Sounds
And look
a
what happened.
lot.
That's
Sounds
like
a lot.
having a 90% chance of winning.
Right. Sounds a lot like the Trump campaign and the media on that, doesn't it? Thank you so much, Joe Concha, media reporter for The Hill.
Thanks, Lauren.
The Holy Father reminds us of Mother Teresa, who respected the sanctity of life. During his Sunday Angelus, Pope Francis cited St. Teresa of Calcutta, who said, "Life is beauty, admire it. Life is life, fight for it." The Pope asked for prayers for children who risk being aborted and for people nearing the end of life. Up next, the plight of Christians in Iraq.
I don't want to go abroad.
What keeps them there despite the threat of violence? And royal celebration. Queen Elizabeth marks another amazing milestone. When implementing his executive order banning travel from 7 predominantly Muslim countries, President Trump vowed to give priority to persecuted Christians. But some Christians in Iraq say, no thank you. The kids at Baghdad's Zayuna camp make do with the little they have. The people here are Christians who fled their town of Karakosh in northern Iraq when ISIS took over, losing homes, businesses, almost everything they owned. You'd think they'd be rejoicing at President Trump's suggestions he'll give preference to Christian refugees. Evelyn Mehti and her family get by on income from their simple shop. She isn't jumping at the offer.
أنا لحد الآن أنا مطلعة جوازات وكل شيء عندي. بس
I don't want to go abroad. I love Iraq, my country. It's the country of our parents.
عراق بلدي.
Camp residents have nailed crosses and Iraqi flags to their temporary homes, eager to stress they're Iraqis first, Christians second. Evelyn's husband, Samir, shares her skepticism.
Let's say I went to America. What would I get out of it? No, let me live in my Iraq and die in my Iraq.
Before the U.S. invasion, almost 1.5 million Christians lived here. Since then, as many as 2/3 have left.
Not only Christians suffered, but also others, Muslims, Sunni, Shi'i, Yazidi also.
Luis Rafael Sacco I is the Chaldean Catholic Patriarch of Babylon and leads the largest Christian community in Iraq. He's at pains to warn, giving preference to Christians over Muslims will only increase resentment.
It doesn't matter they are Christians, Muslims, believers or not. They are human beings. So just this, sectarian language was very bad.
The faithful take communion at Baghdad's St. Joseph's Church. The pews are emptier than before. A sense of loss haunts many who have seen loved ones leave, never to return. Wafa Tuma thinks it's a good idea to stop all Iraqis, regardless of religion, from leaving.
Enough emigration. They shouldn't let our young people go. No one will be left here.
The Associated Press says El Cajon, California, near San Diego, has become home to many Iraqi Christians who did decide to come to America. Taking this step into religious life, a new Georgetown University survey is taking a look at the Americans who took the plunge. 216 American men and women took their vows in 2016. More than 80% of the group answered questions. 66% say their prayer practice included Eucharistic adoration before taking the vow, and 60% underwent spiritual direction. If you want to read more about this, please visit our partners at CatholicNewsAgency.com. A milestone for the Queen and for all of Britain. Queen Elizabeth II becomes the first British monarch to reach that milestone of 65 years on the throne. A 41-gun salute marked the Queen's Sapphire Jubilee. No major ceremonies are scheduled. She's staying home. It's also the anniversary of the death of her father, King George VI.
This one will obviously be more subtle and more low-key. It will be marked, I think, in various quiet and subtle ways. But it is a remarkable achievement, and she really is the best example of somebody why people shouldn't retire.
Queen Elizabeth surpassed Queen Victoria as Britain's longest-serving monarch, and that was in 2015. Before we go, I want to invite you to join me this Wednesday at noon Eastern for a Q&A chat. It's taking place on Facebook Live. I'll be answering your questions and giving you an inside look at EWTN News Nightly. You can submit your questions now. Just visit facebook.com/Lauren Ashburn EWTN. For all of us here at EWTN News Nightly, to all of you around the world, I'm Lauren Ashburn. I'll see you again tomorrow. Good night and God bless.